The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on.
He missed the complete. He's crazy.
As I said, Freitas is on the grass on the infield before. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
Of the countries that have adopted motorsport as one of their national pastimes, Brazil is certainly among the most passionate. Names like Fittipaldi, Piquet, and Senna are revered by young and old alike in the South American nation. But today, the drivers in the Pacific Majors will test their mettle against the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache and the FW31 to see who can tame this much-loved Brazilian circuit. We'll find out which three will stand on the podium as we get ready to watch the Cavu.com Brazilian Grand Prix live on the Global Sim Racing channel. I am Joe Peak. With me in the booth tonight are Bill Soup Zahn and our resident F1 expert, Samuel Ryman. Behind the scenes is our director, Giancarlo Lindsay, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Sam, Interlagos has been around since the 70s, but I think it's fair to say that most of its lore has been built since the early 90s when F1 returned to the track in its current layout. Tell us a little bit about it.
Interlagos, a circuit in between the lakes at 2.7 miles or 4.3 kilometers, is one of the shorter circuits that the F1 field regularly visits, and with 15 turns, it's also one of the twistier ones, with a relatively low average speed. Therefore, 71 laps around here may sound like a long race for these guys, and that's because it is. These drivers are certainly going to have their work cut out for them tonight around here, as not only is the race long, but it will be tricky too, with twisty turns designed by none other than three-time Formula One world champion Ayrton Senna. So let's have a ride around this Brazilian circuit with our GSRC lap guide presented by David Williams.
All right, we've got David Williams in the GSRC FW31, so let's do a lap around Interlagos. Coming down to the Senna S, the entry is going to be one of your best places to pass. Your competitor could fight back if they hold the outside, but it's difficult. The big thing is to make sure you've got a run out of two so that you can really carry your speed around the Curva do Sol and onto the backstretch. This is the next best place to set up a pass, under braking for Descida do Lago. The dip will make it easy for the car to want to push wide, but if you get it right, you're flat to the floor through 5. Hold left though, because it's not a long blast before we hit 6 and 7. The track rises here, and it's a double apex, making the second blind part extra difficult to nail. Drift left for a nice wide entry into 8 where the curb is extremely flat. You can get away with cutting quite a lot of it, so might as well use it. Now we're into the slower technical section of the track, where good mechanical grip will reward you. Here in Bico de Pato, you've got an especially tricky curved entry that crests on exit. Be careful getting the power down. From there, 11 is flat out, and you'll hold right to set up for Juncao. This is probably the most important corner on the track because it's foot to the floor all the way until the first corner from here. Botch this exit and you'll be climbing uphill at a severe disadvantage to your rivals. From here, it's simply a matter of shortening the circuit as much as you can around the bends and crossing the line to finish a lap around Interlagos. Welcome back to Interlagos, and as you saw from the lap, the laps, even though it is a low relative speed, it's at least compared to most F1 tracks, it's still going to go by fairly quick with somewhat short lap times around here. Now, let's talk about the championship because we've only got this round and one more left in the Pacific Majors. And Bill, how are we looking in the overall right now?
Well, on the heels of Northwest Club qualifying for the World Cup Finals, they increased their lead over rival Texas in the Governor's Cup, upping it to more than 200 points. With only one more race, like you said, after this one remaining on the schedule, the call to giddy up for Texas is now. Now, unless California cracks away and sinks into the Pacific, it will almost certainly finish in third. And the West Club made a valiant late-season charge, but it looks like it's too little, too late, and it's destined to close the season in the familiar role of cellar dwellers. Now, unlike the Governor's Cup, the Drivers' Championship is wide open. Texas, Alan Haysbeck tops the list, but only by a mere 7 points over Rob Gall for the West Club. Northwest driver Brian Barnes sits 12 points out of the lead in the show position. But when you look at the top 3 drivers' results, there's not a crooked number between them. California's Michael Smith is the highest driver to claim a win, and Smitty has 2 of them, sitting in 4th, and still a threat to win the championship, just 15 points out of the lead. 1 win apiece for the Fighting Marine David Williams, Lion Little Train Callisto, and Chris the Thinker Pence, who sits 5th, 6th, and 7th, respectively, just ahead of Jason Fleischle in 8th. Now, it should be pointed out that all the aforementioned drivers, only Barnes hails from the Governor Cup leading Northwest Club, which kind of speaks to the depth of the grunge squad there. Moving quickly now to the final 2 championships in the Volt Vape Sportsman division. The podiums all sit under Lone Stars. Mike Franklin has been leading the way all season long. His 609 points actually would put him in 15th place in the Drivers' Championship. In 2nd and 3rd are fellow Texans Sam Boren and Adam Young. And then moving to the last one, a category close to my heart and my hairline, Rob Gall of the West is the top legend. The Northwest then claims the next 7 spots with Brian Barnes and Wayne Hutchinson leading the way. We'll cover the leaders in the individual club standings when time allows during the race. Joe?
Definitely a lot to fight for, at least up at the top of all these smaller championships. Governor's Cup obviously has been a little bit one-sided throughout the season, but we're not too surprised by that, knowing just how much talent is, I guess you said both talent and numbers in the Northwest Club. Now, if you're not familiar, and by the way, welcome to our iRacing Live viewers, if you're just joining us for the Pacific Majors, and if you're new to the series, these guys run all different types of cars. If you remember the iRacing World Tour, it's kind of like that, except they both run the road and oval side. We're on the road side today. They've done one F1 car race earlier in the season, also in the FW31. This is the second one. So some of these guys might not be regulars in this car. They might be really new to it. And Sam, to that point, what are some of the challenges do you think they're going to be facing today out there for those that haven't driven this regularly?
Mainly just control under acceleration, also the brakes as well, but especially the amount of power to weight ratio that these cars have is going to be quite difficult to get them off the turn, especially considering that we have a track temperature of 106 degrees Fahrenheit here today. So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of sliding around. Also, the brakes take a bit of getting used to here. The brake bias actually changes based on how much you have the pedal pushed down. You can change that because it's an open setup. You can change it in your setup, and these drivers are racing open setups today. I have a feeling, though, you're going to see some of the regular names up front because those drivers who are very serious about this championship have came in here. A few of them rather, have ran full race long simulations during this multi-hour practice session, and right now you have very familiar names there at the top of the screen. So, but I have a feeling there could be some interesting action going on in the middle of the pack today.
I wouldn't doubt it. And speaking of names at the top of the screen, one of them currently sitting second in the practice times, we're seeing George Sandman. We wanted to make a small correction to an error we made at the Petite Le Mans last round at Road Atlanta. Sandman and Worley, we said, had gotten a black flag for using what could have been a workaround, and that was incorrect. They actually got black flags from having the meatball flag for having damage on their cars. Apparently, they were still drivable, but iRacing said you can't go on, so both he and Ryan Worley had to come, and we apologize for that little mistake that we made on air. Now that we know better after the race, we just want to let our viewers know. Now, looking at the places that these guys might be able to make an overtake, Bill, it doesn't seem like there's too many, but at least they're going to go by them quite a few times with 71 laps.
Yeah, it looks like, I think corner 1 is going to be probably the place you're going to see a lot of passing, or if you do see passing, that's probably where you're going to see most of it. Maybe corner 4 as well. The middle part of this track just winds like a fishing reel. It goes left and right and left and right and left and right. Nice long straight. We'll see how it goes. I think we're going to see a lot of attrition in this one because these guys are really struggling to keep their car on the pavement. Luckily for them, this series allows for one fast repair.
I was just going to mention that is going to help guys get back into this. But we saw this in the last round that they had the FW31, which was at Monza a little while ago, that it definitely, as the race went on, if you could keep the car pointed forward, keep decent pace, you're going to have a good finish out there, even up at the top.
Also, for Jason Fleischle, it's important to actually put the car in gear when the lights go off. That's what happened at Atlanta.
Or at Monza, actually.
Monza, that's right.
Yeah, I actually had the good fortune to get to meet Jason, because he's actually local to my area, and we got together, had a few drinks, and talked about that. He's pretty embarrassed, but he had a really good sense of humor about it and is able to laugh about what went down. Even other drivers have been ribbing him about that incident. He's actually still going to have quite a time today. We understand that he was driving in the 6 hours of COTA earlier, doing an Aston Martin, so he's going to be a little bit weary even at the start of this race, let alone after 1.5 to 2 hours trying to handle an F1 car around here. Still got a little bit more time left before warm-up is finished. Then we're going to grid up and give you the qualifying order, and then we're going to go racing. So let's talk also about the pit strategy before that happens. And Sam, it sounds like there's actually a little bit of variety up for grabs depending on what your preference is.
Yeah, and it does come down to preference a lot. You could see these drivers making 1 stop, 2 stops, or 3 stops, or even more. Hopefully, that wouldn't be the desired strategy, in my opinion, though. This is a 2008 Williams F1 car, which means refueling was still a thing. So obviously, if you want to do a 3 stop, that means you're going to have new tyres and a light fuel load for the entire race, but you're going to lose a lot of time down pit road, although granted it's not the longest pit road in the world. You're going to see a lot of inexperienced drivers, I have a feeling, take that strategy just because they know their goal is to keep it on the track. But the drivers who do have experience and who are going to be racing for the win, I'd expect to see them 2-stop in this, and with it being a 72 lap race, those will be around laps 24 and 48. But we've got less than a minute left of qualifying here, and George Sandman is currently second, and he's in his pit box. I have a feeling David Williams is about to wrap up the pole here.
Well, they're actually not in qualifying at the moment. They're in warm-up, I believe, if I'm correct.
Right. Well, I think qualifying is preset during the week, is it not? So they already know the grid position they're going to start in.
That's what I believe. We'll have to get confirmation on that.
But I do have big news. Our points leader overall, I don't see Alan Hayspec is actually on the track right now. So I'm hoping that everything is okay. His name is registered. It looks like he may have been here. So hopefully, maybe he's showing up. Just getting a little worried about him.
Yep. Now we've got to go through the grid real quick because we got lots of cars. David A. Williams is on the pole. George Sandman starting in second. Lionel Callisto will start the second row in third with Jason Fleischle in fourth. Brian Bennett will start off in fifth, followed by Brett Trozen in sixth. Bill?
The next 6 are Pfeiffer, Dreismid, Shepard, Boren, Barnes, and rounding out that is Wayne Hutchinson. Sam?
Chris Pence will be starting in 13th alongside Jason Pitts, and then Rob Goll, who ran more laps than anyone else in practice. Aaron Stowe is starting 16th, Michael Smith and Scott Rubar on row 9, Joe.
In 19th, it's Carl Burke, followed by Ryan Bird in 20th, Stephen Paulison in 21st, and Bob Beltrami in 22nd. Kyle Murphy starts in 23rd, and Bill, it'll be Alan Hayspec rounding out row 12.
Ethan Moore, Christopher Sherburner the next row, Donovan Johns and Matt Gelder on the next row, Chris Beck and Mike Franklin on the next one.
And
Sam?
unfortunately, it looks like the lights are up, so we're getting ready to go racing. Red lights are there, waiting for the green. Everybody's revved up, and green is out. We've got another car in the front row that didn't start. Was that Sandman? As they work their way down to the first corner, see if we get any action. Everybody's body parts on their car still so far, it looks like. Not seeing any contact. And it looks like everybody has gotten through the S's safely. David Williams leads the way by a huge margin. Lionel Callisto currently holding second. Brian Bennett is in third, and Fleischle still in the fourth position that he started the race.
Sandman has dropped down to 15th position after that horrible start.
Thankfully, I can't believe everybody got around a car stopped on the front row. Good heads up by everybody. But boy, these top four are absolutely streaking away. Alfred Shepard is the next car in line, and he's already 3 seconds back from our fourth place car.
Callisto in second place, Bennett in third, and Fleischle got a good start in fourth.
Looking a little ways down the line, looks like we got a good battle going on between Trent Drismid and Michael Smith. Smitty trying to hold on to P9 as they come up the front stretch, but he's got a draft actually on Ryan Bird. Looks to the outside, has to weave all the way out. We might see a 3-wide situation as Drismid looks to the inside, and Smitty is caught out. Boy, I thought that Drismid would be the one that...
spinner in the first turn. Stephen Paulison got rear-ended, slides off the track, but a few cars having to go into the infield in the center S's.
Hesbeck also, more cars getting backed up there.
Jared Morgan was actually upside down.
So we were worried about the first corner, and it turns out, or the first lap, and it's the second lap that we have to worry about. Meanwhile, Christopher Sherburn is also out. Let's look at the replay to see how this all kicked off. Sam says that somebody got rear-ended here. There's Paulison. Purple car behind him just noses into him. That damage is not going to help his downforce. Has to take evasive action along with another car behind him. I think that might have been Jimbo Pfeiffer.
Yeah, and then more cars were collected up behind them.
I think just being a little bit unsighted, getting that yellow flag, not sure what's going on in front, caused everybody to panic a little bit. We're going to watch it from just a slightly different angle from above. Oh, we missed the initial contact. There you can see everybody working their way around the outside. So, in spite all of that, everybody up front still pretty much in the order that we said earlier. Williams, Callisto, Bennett, and Fleischle. Behind them, though, I see that Sam Boren has moved into fifth.
Yeah, more contact in turn one. Michael Smith that got rear-ended, had to cut through the grass. One car spun at the top of a hill there.
And Smitty seems to be moving backwards. He's one of our championship contenders. Fortunately, we don't have a replay of that last incident. Smitty's trying to fight off Bob Beltrami at the moment, with a little bit wide coming through Decido del Lago, but no harm, no foul. There's no incident limit on this race. Now we've got a question from the chat, apparently asking how many laps per fuel run we can expect from these cars. Now, obviously, the obvious answer would be if they're doing a 3, it's 71 divided by 3, but what are you expecting these guys would be aiming for, Sam?
Yeah, well, the 3 stoppers should be coming in as early as lap 18. We've already had several cars down into the pits with damage. Jimbo Pfeiffer was involved in an incident on the previous lap. And then, meanwhile, also, your start could alter your strategy as well.
Sorry. Woo, we had a 3-wide situation developing with Sandman looking to the inside. He gets one position off of Shepard, but he's still trying to get one more off of Pence. He is charging back through the field. Sorry, Sam.
Yeah, well, Sandman's who I'm referring to. This is not the easiest place to overtake in an F1 car. You really only have the overtaking opportunity into turn 1 and the one down into turn 4 that Sandman's going through right now. Sandman fell to 15th on the first lap after that botched start. He has now rallied his way back up into 8th place though, so hopefully he shouldn't have to change his strategy too much, as the race is still salvageable. Although...
Everybody watching the same thing there as Sandman nearly gets into the back of Pence.
Can you give a chrome horn in these cars? My goodness.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So Sandman, despite a little bit of a scary moment, up into 7th now, as Sam said he was all the way down to 15th earlier in the race. And he's already leaving him behind. It's a little ways up to Trent Drismid in 6th, though. Already on lap 5. Go ahead.
George was Sandman was one of the drivers who put in an incredible amount of practice time. Laps after laps, hundreds of laps.
And knowing Sandman, it's the worst kind of red mist that's coming down over him now. He is such a cool character. It's the sort that he is going to be ultra determined to get back up there, and you really do not want to be in front of him because he is going to be taking it hell or high water.
The good news is his mistake didn't cost him any damage on his car. Everyone got around him, so his car is clean if he can keep it clean.
We're watching Alfred Shepard in 11th being chased by Brian Barnes. Barnes, another one of the drivers that's pretty high up in the championship. One of these guys that, even though he's not in the top 10 right now, it's still a testament. These cars are not easy to drive, and he's been doing at least good enough in everything from a stock car, a Gen 6 NASCAR, to these Formula One cars, to a GT3 car, and Shepard spins. Doesn't hit anything, gets it turned around, almost finds some clear track. He's trying to get going again. There he goes now.
You don't want to take a tow around here, because even though he's only one turn from the pits, the fact that these laps click off so fast, you might even lose a lap. I don't think we have that many cars lapped down now, but the leaders are already having to deal with a bit of lap traffic.
Only 6 laps in now, David Williams is starting to have to slice through the field. One of the things as we watch Williams right now as he goes around, that's Haseback. Look at Haseback running in 31st position. Maybe get a look at him in a blue and white car. Boy, he's way off the pace. That's your point leader.
He's actually 33rd. Timing and scoring is going a little screwy with all the cars out on track at the moment. So,
That's your overall champion. Now, one of the reasons that we have a really large field is here, it wasn't big enough to split into 2 splits. Usually they divide this up into the pro split and the amateur split. Everybody's here today. We have a large, about 33 cars out there right now? 37.
Just quite a bit for an F1 race. Now,
F1, I'm sorry, Joe, to interrupt, but F1 on a really short track. I mean, this is brutal.
That too. I want to jump back up front. In 4th, Jason Fleischle, less than a second behind Brian Bennett, really hassling him at the moment, trying to get himself onto the podium. Remember, this is a driver that's done numerous hours already out on another track today in a different car. Here he hops into this one, and he's up at the top.
Very good run from Bennett. We usually don't see him up so far up. It's a great run from him.
In fact, he's closed it in now to half a second. Now, I have to imagine, Sam, that the aero wash in these cars is atrocious with the amount of downforce that they give you. Is it going to be difficult in this back section of the course to stay with them?
Absolutely, that's the problem. You've got great overtaking opportunities down in turn 1 and turn 4, but the problem is, leading to that, you have a really twisty section, and the front end washes out when you're behind a car that you're battling for position with. And so once you get to those overtaking opportunities, all of a sudden you're too far back. Remember, these are 2008 F1 cars. There was no DRS or curves back then, so you got to use your right foot to do all the passing, and we could see a pass about to take place right here.
Fleischle got a great run off of Zheng Cao, but he wasn't close enough to try to send it in on the first corner. He looks to the outside, try to get himself a good exit, and it might just do it. He gets a great exit. They got the lap traffic of Haseback, who pulls over. I think Fleischle might have this one if he can stick it up the inside. And once again, though, he backs out of it. He's being incredibly patient.
Don't blame him.
He's obviously got the pace, so he's waiting for the best possible opportunity, I imagine, not wanting to risk the car. Only 8 laps into this race. Small correction, I believe these are actually 2009 F1 cars.
Yes, a possibility. Unfortunately, the Williams wasn't exactly the top-running car at that time.
That's true.
But since they're all Williams out on the track right now, it doesn't really matter, including our leader right now is a Williams.
Once again, Fleischle looking good off that last corner. Not as good as last lap, though, as Bennett starts to streak away. The draft is going to reel in Fleischle, but if he didn't try it last time, I don't think he's going to try it this time either. So the order has not changed up front for our viewers. David Williams still in the lead. However, he's extended it over Callisto by 10 seconds already. Just stunning pace from David in this car. Brian Bennett still in third. You're watching that battle, or you have been watching that battle for quite a while as we look at David Williams now with Fleischle sitting not far behind Bennett in 4th.
Yeah, and George Salmon has been able to rally his way back up into 5th position, and you were correct that the grid order was predetermined. That being said, the top 4 on the grid were actually in the positions that they finished in practice. It just worked out that way by coincidence. And Lionel Kalisto was 3rd fastest in practice, so it amazes me that Williams is pulling away as quickly as he is. I almost wonder if that's an indication Williams has less fuel on board than Kalisto.
Possibly trying for that 3-stopper, seeing if he could split it up into 3 very quick sprints. Now, as we watch Sandman in 5th, he's only 2 seconds behind Fleischle. So despite that start, he has gunned him down and is looking to make an overtake probably before this race is over. Here you can see him putting a lap on another car. That was Mike Franklin. Only about 24 cars, or no, excuse me, 23 cars still on the lead lap, I'm seeing.
Oh, they're falling quickly. Let me go back to 8th place, back to Trent Dreismith in here. He's in a nice battle. He may be holding up these guys. He's currently running in 8th. Now, right behind him is Rob Gall running in 9th. Then a little bit farther back, he can get closer, is Chris Pence in 10th. 11th is Scott Gruber. And then 12th is the last car in that train is Brian Barnes.
Oh, here comes Gall. Sorry, Gall was looking on Trismid and backed out of it before they got to 6.
They've just been kind of feeling each other out, waiting for a move. And there goes Dreisen, makes a mistake, and there goes... No, I'm sorry, that's a lap car. Yep. Something's up with Hayspec's car.
We understand that there's a bit of damage on Hayspec, potentially the rear wing as he goes completely off the track and almost loses it. Not a place that you want to go, and we've got a car off the track. Where is that? That's Robert Fredis.
Yeah, he was involved in an incident earlier on, so he's just trying to get out of the way of traffic right now.
Gets back on and back off. So he's struggling with something there. Now he's re-entered the track one more time. Let's go back up to Gall in 9th place. He's still within a second of Drismid, but he's dropped back ever so slightly. Meanwhile, in 13th and 14th, Smitty still with a battle on his hands as they put another lap on Hayspec. Brian Bird looking to the inside, try to sneak that nose in, breaks a little bit too early, and Smitty holds him off.
Here we go, Fleischle and Sandman now. Sandman is going to make the move, finally going to get this position.
With lap traffic and a car off the course right around them.
Joe and Sam, the closing speed is so much difference between the fast cars and the slow. It's almost like multi-class racing.
I was just thinking the same thing. We saw in practice there was about 8 or 9 seconds difference between the fastest and slowest cars. And in a lap that's only about 1:13 for the fast guys, they are going to be putting quite a few laps on the back of the field. So there we see Sandman now up to 4th. From 15th to 4th in about 12 laps. You can see the pace difference. Fleischle already a second and a half behind. Sandman trying to work his way past J.D. Snyder, driver who is sponsored by Kavu.com, the official sponsor of the Pacific Majors Brazilian Grand Prix.
Next on the hit list for George is our 3rd place driver, Brian Bennett. Bennett's got about just under 2-second lead on him.
Now let's go back to Bird and Smitty, because this battle is still going on, and in the same position we saw last lap, Bird did not brake late enough. He seems a lot more timid. And that's one of the things, Sam, I have to wonder, if you're not used to the braking power of the Williams, is that something that's really hard to adjust to?
Yeah, absolutely, because as I mentioned during the pre-race, the bias can adjust, and honestly, these brakes are just like brakes you've never experienced in another car, so you've got to take full advantage of them. Yes, you can be casual on the brakes, and and make the turn without risking your car spinning around, but then you're probably going to be several seconds off the pace, just given how hard you can really drive these cars. So yes, it is something that is very difficult for these drivers to get used to, and might be one of the reasons we're seeing such a disparity between those who put in laps during practice and those that maybe didn't.
Continuing to watch this battle, there's a car off. That's Donovan Johns down in 28th. Didn't hit anything. But in the same spot, once again, Bird gaining through those opening S's down through the curve at Sol. And once again, not close enough. They're coming up on Brian Barnes. Now, what happened to Barnes? I thought he was a front runner. I guess it... Oh, this is actually, they're gaining on Barnes. This is for position.
Yeah, Barnes started in 11th and he's running in 12th, so that's been about where he's been all race.
Thought maybe that they had closed up on a lapped car, but no, this is going to be a 3-car battle now, all trying to go for P12.
Battle for third. Bennett's about to lose it, and he's just lost the position to Sandman, rallying his way back through the field.
Just an incredible run from George here.
My gosh, I just looked away from that. George is flying.
He's got another 8 seconds to try and catch Kalisto. So that's going to be harder and harder. What kind of lap times has George been running, actually? I'm curious. In the race, doing 114, 115s. Thereabouts 17 when he catches traffic. Kalisto, on the other hand, doing 16s and 17s. So he could be catching him about a second a lap. Getting word that Williams doing comparable to Sandman, doing about 114s. Right now, Sandman is about 23 seconds behind our leader.
Well, we don't really expect the faster guys here to be on the 3-stop strategy, so I almost wonder if this means Williams and Sandman are on the 2-stop and Kalisto might be stretching it a little bit. Maybe he's on the 1-stopper. We'll have to find out here in, well, it'll still be a little while.
They're only on lap 15 now. Looking down the order, seeing if we can find ourselves a good battle. I see that Trent Drismid has been trying to chase down Jason Pitts. He's within a second. This is for P7. Despite us seeing Drismid a little bit all over the action, he's actually started in 8th and is currently in 8th. So he's back to where he started. Couldn't quite hold on to what he gained with the cars slipping back early on in the race. Now, actually, he's gaining quite a bit on Pitts. It's within half a second.
Pitt's a much more familiar name to the series that we've seen. Drismid is not.
Definitely a newcomer from my point of view. I don't remember him in the previous races. He might have been in the AM, the Volt Vapes division. And he is right on the rear wing of Jason Pitts now.
Aaron Stowe is going to get... Oh! That was Aaron Stowe.
Contact between Drismid and Stowe. Hopefully he doesn't have too much damage. You can see just a bit of the front wing over there from the roll bar, and he slides. Just manages to hold it together, trying to get it pointed forward, and then it goes around. Oh, he's so close to holding that. About 3 or 4 times, and finally he lost it. Oh, but he keeps some of our top runners from the apex there. That's Smitty and Ryan Bird still battling, go around them. We're going to watch the replay.
Yeah, Aaron Stowe, I give him some sympathy there. He had cars all over the place.
Well, he was holding to one side, too. I think, unfortunately, Trent was hoping to try and split him, make it 3 wide. Just wasn't going to work in that thinner part of the track.
Oh, Smitty has gone for a spin in turns 1 and 2, puts it in reverse, and is going to try going again. He was in the 3-way battle for 12th at the time.
That puts him down to 15th, unfortunately. He was sitting 5th in the championship. Is that correct there, Bill?
I believe that is correct, yes. The only driver with 2 wins. The only multiple winner this season.
Now, as we jump up to Scott Gruber, who is within half a
Sandman's
second.
in trouble. George has looped it, I think.
Oh, you're right. He's slipped down to 4th. This was coming through Juncao. There you can see him live now. We're going to look at the replay, though. Is this an unforced error?
Yep.
Uncharacteristic of George Sandman. And actually, if we're being honest, his second of the day, although we don't know the circumstances behind him being stalled on the grid.
Now, when we last talked, he was 8 seconds behind Callisto. He had knocked it down to 5 seconds. He was flying. Now he's got to do it all over again.
Oh. Looks like he just overcooked those tires coming out of it. He's got to get past Brian Bennett one more time. He still has Fleischle behind him, and we've seen he's already got the legs on the Colorado in.
Now Williams has just completed lap 17. Lap 18 will be the lap that you expect the 3 stoppers to make their first pit stop. I don't think any of the leaders are on 3 stops, but we'll see if any of the drivers running around 10th or so might be coming in the next few laps.
A lot of the rookies, a lot of the guys who are struggling are saying, I'm going to do 3 stops to get the best rubber on there as much as possible.
Now, Williams GTR Simulator's FW31 is so far up, he's trying to put a lap on Alfred Shepard in 16th. That's more than half the field already going laps down. And there he does it right there on screen. We're barely a quarter of the way through the race as it is. We could be seeing cars lapped as far up as 5th or 6th place, I imagine, if this keeps up. Now, does he come in? He's holding left. No, he stays out. So Williams elects to go past what Sam imagines will be the 3-stop strategy. So as we jump back to 10th position, Gruber still trying to chase down Pence. We took a little bit of a look at it earlier, but now we jump back. He's within not quite half a second. Gets a great exit coming out of Bico de Pato, though. Sounds like we got to jump back up to P3. Bennett, he had jumped back into that podium position. But Bill, once again, yeah. Sandman has just absolutely gobbled him up.
And Bennett may not have seen Sandman parked in the grass. And look at Sandman close. He's got to be thinking, what the heck is he doing back there again?
Sandman hits the back part of the circuit. Not as many passing opportunities, but we'll see how ambitious he's going to be here since he knows he's got to make up time. Can't be sitting around too long. Closes in through Bico de Pato. Isn't going to get an opportunity. Is he going to try it into Juncao, or is he going to wait till the long straight after? He backs off of it. He's getting himself a run. He knows what he's doing. Got the draft being reeled in. The huge hole in the air being punched by Brian Bennett's FW31. Sandman closes in, looks to the inside. Bennett doesn't bother defending and outbreaks him by a large margin.
You could see him set that up from that left-hander where he actually backed off to get a good exit. Great driving.
Bennett holds on, coming around Curva del Sol. Is he going to try and get him back? He looks to the inside. This is not what Sandman wants, but he's better on the brakes and still stays ahead despite taking the outside line. And Bennett absolutely drops like a rock after that corner. Now Sandman has 13.5 seconds to get to Lionel Callisto. What did you say it was before when he spun?
5. So he has dropped about 8 seconds there, but he'll be there pretty quick. He was running them down.
We understand that Sandman was running about 1:14, only about 0.2 off Williams, but we've gone back to 18th and 19th, where we see Adam Young and Kyle Murphy having a little bit of a battle here. Ooh, and Murphy way off. That hurts his exit speed. Here comes Adam Young, excuse me. Outbreaks him cleanly down into Decido del Lago. Both of them go off track. Both of them return safely. There have been some drivers asking for them not to put the FW31 on the Pack Majors schedule next year. We'll see whether that happens or not. It is a very high-end car, definitely a steep learning curve.
And that's where we really amazed at some of these drivers. We've seen like Lionel Little Train Callisto right now running in second. We've seen him be incredibly fast in the big, heavy NASCAR cars, Sam, and then he can do it here in these little upside-down jets.
Yeah, I guess you could call them that. I mean, even despite the fact that it isn't the fastest circuit around here, these drivers are hitting 180, 185 miles an hour down into the first corner. Remember, a track temperature of 106 degrees Fahrenheit. That's where we've seen most of the problems today. Whether it's been just two cars under braking, different braking points getting into each other, or even some cars just getting on the brakes a little bit too hard, or unset them in the car and then they spin it on the exit of turn one. Fortunately, we haven't had a lot of incidents recently, but I think that might change once the scheduled pit stops do begin, because when these drivers, they're getting used to running on cars that have light fuel load and tyres that aren't too badly worn right now. When they come out of a pits on cold tyres and heavy fuel again, who knows, we could see a bit of a spin fest again once they're all out there on cold tyres, because they're all going to have to relearn how to drive cars that have a bit more weight in them.
Well, Sam, my math, if I take 71 and divide it into three parts, it's 24, so we're looking at lap 22 now, so drivers who are doing a two-stop would be in their window here pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Anywhere between laps 22 and 24, and I've been pleasantly surprised that this race, at least the second stage of it, has been as calm as it has been, considering that not a lot of people, I don't think anyone really, has been out there three-stopping. We did have a couple of cars in around lap 10 or lap 13 that didn't have much damage on them, so I'm not sure what the story was there. Maybe they had a couple of phone calls to answer.
Two cars that are looking relatively clean right now. Scott Gruber and Chris Pence still battling out for the 9th position. Chris Pence, I think, a little bit wobbly coming through 11. A little shallow coming through Junção. And unfortunately, that backs up Scott Gruber. He had a great run, and he found that red FW31 ahead of him just parked at the apex. We ride on board with Gruber, and you can see the Je suis Paris on his nose of his car. A lot of tributes on to Paris on these vehicles after Friday night's horrific events, and Scott Gruber loses it coming through turn one, almost, but holds on to it. But our hearts, thoughts, and prayers obviously go out to all of our French fans, French viewers, and drivers as well on iRacing. A lot that they have been through in the last few days.
Of course, another thing these drivers are going to have to deal with when it comes to pit road, as I believe Aaron Stowe is actually off right now in the number 99 car. That's not the first time today. And also Alfred Shepherd in the number 12 car. So a couple of cars making small mistakes, but it looks like they've both gotten back on course. But to my point, another thing these drivers are going to have to make sure they do right when they come into the pits is that they select the right amount of fuel for their stint. Remember, they've all got to do this on their keyboard while they're out there driving, and if you don't put enough fuel in it, you might have to be saving a little bit of fuel at the end of a stint.
This is where I think those drivers who have voice commands set up on their racing rig are definitely at a slight advantage. Continue to watch Gruber sitting in 10th. Lost quite a bit of ground to Pence.
Brian Bird, Sam, was about to be lapped, and he's come into the pits now at lap 24, running in 13th position at the time.
Now, looks like our two stoppers have begun.
Now, Bill, I know you usually like me to give you a little bit of warning, so I don't know if you have your points ready for some of the club championships, but we got a bit of space between most of these cars, so it might be a good time for us to start looking at those.
I'll get him out, as I see Kalisto now is coming in.
Top runners electing to make their stops. There, we can see a brick wall right now, but Kalisto, there we go. And his yellow FW31 taking fuel and tires, probably going to fill it all the way up. Or at least all the way up for the next stint, rather.
Yeah, the old Jordan paint scheme, I love it. Not good news, though, for Kalisto that he's pitting before Williams and Sandman came in. He must have had a lighter fuel load than them after all.
Yeah, and did not have the pace. That promotes Sandman up into second temporarily. And he is currently behind Kyle Murphy, who's a lapped car, trying to figure out a way around him. Murphy not exactly giving way in this back technical section where he doesn't want to lose a lot of ground. Sandman takes a little bit of a look at the inside, hoping those blue flags eventually will take effect. They do not have the F1 rules where these cars are required to move over after a certain amount of corners. It is strictly informational, and now Murphy lets him through.
Third place drive in the points, Brian Barnes has also been into the pits.
So now with Barnes taking his first stop and Sandman dealing with this lapped car, let's go to the West Championship, my championship actually.
Yeah.
What are we looking at over there?
Why don't we put the camera on Rob Gall, currently running in 7th position right now. He's the best in the West. 7 points out of the lead and overall driver championships too, so he's having a great series. It'd be kind of poetic justice if that driver could win the championship if they could hail from the cellar dwellers there in the West. Now, the Fighting Marine, David Williams, is currently our top driver today, sits in second in the West, and he has a win and 4 top 5s to go with him. And then Jason Fleischle is on the lowest podium of the West, and rarely seen, Tom Drilling and Jason Grace round out 4th and 5th. So it's nice to see the West well represented today.
Certainly doing pretty well up in the top here.
You know, it's unfortunate. The West has a lot of talent. They just don't have the numbers, the volume.
Well, as I said before, I don't think I could really contribute to that even if I could be out there. These guys are really phenomenal. Definitely impressed with Fleischle and the job that he's done after having extensive endurance racing earlier on today. He's also getting over a little bit of sickness. We understand that he had to miss out on the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge a bit ago, about a week ago I think it was, because he was just been under the weather for an entire week or so and just couldn't feel up to trying to deal with 3 classes on the track at once. Glad to see he's overcome it today. Currently sitting on the podium position, but he's yet to take his first stop, so that's going to change once he comes in for fuel and tires. So let's jump over to 14th, 15th, and 16th. Trocine chasing down Kyle Murphy, who is not that far behind Carl Burke as well. Burke, if I'm not mistaken, is he running a McLaren scheme there on that car? Car that we should be getting soon here in iRacing.
Yeah, that's the 2015 McLaren paint scheme. Lap 26, it's still running.
And not too badly. Sitting in 14th position for Carl Burke. Starting to stretch a little bit away from Murphy even.
Meanwhile, we've had several drivers come into the pits over the last few laps. We've had Beltrami, Paulison, Spence, Michael Smith, Pitts and Goal have all came into the pits in the last couple of laps.
Currently our highest driver who has pitted is Lionel Kalisto, sitting in 5th. He's waiting to see where his competitors try to come in. See what strategy.
With Kalisto pitting, that has moved Bennett up into 3rd and Fleischle up into 4th, and they're pretty close on track now.
And here's our leader in the pits.
David Williams coming in for his first stop. You can see number of cars heading in for theirs as well. Sandman elects to stay out here with 43 laps still yet to go. Actually, Sandman is just coming up to the pit entry now, and he does come in. So he is on the same strategy as Williams, it looks like.
It was about 31 seconds there, so it took him a while to get to pit entrance.
And to give you the idea of how much of a gap he's put on Brian Bennett, who had to pass not that long ago, Bennett is just going past pit entry now.
And our new leader.
No, Williams is already out, actually.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Williams has not given away the lead yet. Such was his gap over the field. Remember, Kalisto was in second before he stopped. He probably could have been the only one that would be able to lead a lap besides him, but there's no lead a lap bonus points, I believe, in the Pacific Majors. Now, Sandman has exited in fifth behind Lionel Kalisto, and he's only about 5.5 seconds behind.
Gilbert had also been into the pits that time. I'm guessing these drivers are two-stopping. They just had a bit of a long first stint.
Now, is there advantage to try and work that strategy that way? F1 fans might think that there could be different tire compounds, but all the compounds are the same for iRacing, so I wouldn't think that there's really much of a difference there, Sam.
No, probably not. I mean, these drivers haven't, up front at least, haven't really been running close enough to try and leapfrog each other in the pits and, you know, use the undercut strategy. I have a feeling maybe they just put on a couple extra laps of fuel and they were thinking, hey, I've got a nice ride going here, I've got no traffic, I'm just going to run it until it runs out and then I'll have to take less fuel late in the race.
Keep fresher tires on at the end so you can...
Brett Trojan just had to crash in the center S.
He looped it earlier, and I guess he had trouble. Maybe he damaged the car when he looped it.
So, problems for Brett Trocine. We're going to look at replay down into the first corner here. Overtaking a lapped car. And once again, it looks like we're seeing a case of just getting on the power too soon at these low speeds where that downforce is not helping you.
Yeah, he hadn't been in for a scheduled stop yet. I mean, we're saying tyre wear doesn't mean as much as fuel does, but it still exists. I wonder if he just lit up rears, if they were getting a little bit too warm.
Then you can see for good measure, he clobbered the wall once more, trying to get the car going. We switch over to Chris Pence sitting in the top 10. And now we've jumped to Chris Sherburne, actually, who's in a nice little battle, it looks like, with, is this David Freeboth? Yes, it is.
I'll tell you what, these are nice runs by Bennett and Fleischle because it looks like they're going to be one stop in, and that means that they both have one stop left to make, and Kalisto in fourth behind him has one stop to make. Kalisto is catching them, but how much of a fight will these drivers in second and third put up? We'll find out in the next couple of laps.
And Kalisto should be on fresher tires as well, which will make his life a little bit easier if he has to try and get by them. And he's already rocked up to the rear wing of Jason Fleischle, who himself is battling with Brian Bennett. Not close enough to try and make an attack, but they do have cars in front of them, almost going side by side. That's Ryan Bird and Kyle Murphy, and that is for position for those two, so they are not going to want to pull over very quickly. Whoa, sending it in deep. Brian Bennett managed to get one of them, but that compromises his exit. And unfortunately for Jason Fleischle, Ryan Bird was there at the apex, so he couldn't take advantage of it.
And there's Kalisto going to take a peek. He's going to get that spot.
That was very important for Kalisto, not being held up by Fleischle with these guys on an alternate strategy. Now he's going to put a lap on Bird. Manages to sneak inside. But Kalisto now has Kyle Murphy. Does Murphy pull over? He's got some space to Bird, who he was battling with earlier. Now he lifts and lets him through. So no cars between Bennett and Callisto as we ride on board with Fleischle, trying to get past these lap cars himself to stay with this fight in case something goes awry.
It might just be the older tires, but you can see the racing line that Bennett takes, a much wider entrance into the corner. Callisto looking to get a run.
And he might have it. Callisto within 0.3 of Bennett. This is for second position on track, though Bennett has yet to make his first stop. Closing in up to the Senna S's. Down to the braking zone. Callisto's a little too far back. Could set him up here around the Curva del Sol, and he gets a fantastic run. Callisto now within 0.2. The draft reeling him in. He takes a little bit of a look, but he backs out of it by the braking zone. Unfortunately, that cost him a little bit of time. He's going to have to work his way back up to Bennett's rear wing once more.
One car driver who had had an incident-free run up until this point, Adam Young, is coming into the pits with a lot of front-end damage on his number 21 machine.
As we watch with this beautiful shot with the rear suspension on Brian Bennett, and once more Callisto tries to send that Jordan liveried Williams up the inside, but nowhere to go into Bico de Pato.
Well, like Sam was saying, even though these cars are on different pit strategies, right now they're kind of on the same pit strategy. They both have one stop to make. So Bennett's, saying, hey, I'm fighting for a position here. But meanwhile, while Bennett's holding these guys up, Sandman is gobbling these guys up, and he's going to be in the picture real soon.
I was keeping half an eye on that myself. Sandman sitting fifth, but he's only got a second and a half up the Fleischle. We already know that he's got a lot better pace, but now Callisto has got the run. He's got the inside. I think he might finally have the job done. Still, Bennett fights him along the outside into the braking of Decido del Lago. They go side by side. Bennett holds on around the outside and carries his momentum. He is not giving up. Around turn 5, he finally gets ahead into 6. Not typically a braking zone, passing zone. And Callisto is not going to be able to send one up through that one.
Wow.
This is a feisty Brian Bennett that we are seeing right now. Did he get in the back of him? Was there contact?
I don't think so, but Callisto, he loops it again.
He spins it, though, and that's 2 positions lost in one go. George Sandman and Jason Fleischle get by. There was no contact, we understand. It was ever so close.
Now, look, we get paid to have opinions, so I have no problem with the way Brian Bennett was racing there. He raced him clean, but he raced him hard.
That was fantastic, but George Sandman, he's going to get another position within a single lap. He's on the inside of Jason Fleischle, down into turn 1, and the job is done.
It's a risky run to stop him, Bill. Maybe it is the ideal strategy, and you can run the fastest race distance during practice with 2 stops, but the fact is, the race has other cars on the track, and you've got to get by those cars that are only 1 stop in. It looks to me like Callisto maybe thought he was about to run into the car in front, so probably gave it a bit more brake than he needed to, and that just led to it snapping around.
Now, we saw on screen that Fleischle had a great run coming out of Curva del Sol, but elected not to try and pass Sandman and just stayed in his wake. And I think that Fleischle is well admitting that Sandman is the faster driver here, and with still another 36 laps, he was not looking to try and slow them both down.
Well, aren't we now, Sam? 36, Bennett's going to be coming in pretty soon. He's at the halfway mark right now, isn't he?
He is currently on lap 35. The lead is on 36, but he might be coming in anyhow.
There he goes. Bennett gets it slowed down to the pit limiter. Finally comes in to get fresh fuel and tires. That promotes George Sandman up into second place. Now, Sandman, however, is a whole 30 seconds behind Williams.
Callisto has to be steaming as he sees Bennett in pit lane after working so hard. If he just would have waited another lap or 2, he could have done it the easy way like George did.
And he still has to overtake Fleischle. Fleischle has yet to make his stop. Remember, actually, I don't think I mentioned it on air. Fleischle did tell us before the race he intends to try and one-stop this thing if it wasn't apparent already.
Well, if Kalisto had no contact in that spin, he has no damage, and he was faster than Burnett and Fleischle. I have a feeling Kalisto might not be out of the woods for a second podium position just yet. Talking about the driver that's going to beat him at this rate, though, is David Williams. I think he's lapped up to 6th place now.
So my call of the top 5 being on the lead lap might even not be enough.
David Freeboss has spun entering turn 1, and he's in a very precarious position, able to get it back around the right way, though.
Now, did he hit anything? It looks like, he hit the inside wall, so his car is damaged. That was David Freeboth that had the accident.
Fleischle is in for his one stop of the day.
So that should be all cars have stopped at this point, I believe. I'm seeing Alfred Shepard. Wrong Shepard there.
One's an astronaut.
Yes, Alfred Shepard has yet to stop. I'm not sure if that's accurate. And Jason Pitts, am I seeing that correctly? He has not stopped either? These guys are a little bit farther down. Pitts currently up into 7th.
Yeah. Well, I'm getting that Pitts maybe made a pit stop. Where did he start this race?
Pitts began this race in 14th, I'm seeing. Shepard, on the other hand, he started in 9th, and he is down in 13th. He had earlier issues in the race, if I remember correctly. We're looking at Trent Drismid, though, sitting in 12th. He is well close to Brian Barnes and actually making a pass.
I think Shepard may have not pit yet because he's just came in for his stop now, and that would mean he's probably on the one-stop strategy.
Brian Barnes, we're hearing, does have some damage, so that could be explaining why he is slipping backwards. Now down in a 12th position.
Yeah, I think Pitts is on a two-stop strategy, Joe. I think he has been in, but if that is the case, the fact that he's gone from 14th to 7th is saying... And Bennett spins, coming out of turn 1.
Oh, you talked about those fresh tires and heavy fuel load. Did he hit the wall?
The right rear got very close. I don't know if it hit.
We're going to look at the replay, see if we can track it down. I can't tell if he... Oh, if he did, it was the lightest of touches. I think he put a wheel off into the grass as well to help spin him around. He's continuing on, though. Bennett now down in 6th position. So let's go through our order, actually, since we've got pretty much all their first stops done. David Williams currently in the lead by an entire 36 seconds over George Sandman in 2nd, who's trying to recover from a bad start and a spin. Lionel Kalisto sitting in 3rd. He's only 6 seconds behind. He's looking good for podium. Jason Fleischle, he's in 4th. He's a whole minute behind our leader at this point. And then Sam Boren rounds out our top 5.
My gut tells me we want to go to Brian Bennett right now. He's about to be lapped by David Williams. Bennett may be a little more polite than he was to Kalisto earlier. Let's see how this works.
And that spin has moved Sam Bowen up into 5th, and I think he's the one driver in the top 5 besides David Williams that hasn't spun around today.
Look for some wood to knock on to try and counteract the commentator's curse for Sam Boren. But definitely has been doing an excellent job up there. He's about to get lapped soon, too, because Brian Bennett did, in fact, get put down a lap by Williams, who is now closing very quickly on Boren.
Another driver making a bit of a comeback from a spin earlier, if my memory serves me right, is Trent Drismid, and I apologise for butchering that name. He just cracked his way back into the top 10 by Chris Pence.
I just realized that that R and Y were in reverse order. I apologize to Trent for mispronouncing that. Chris Pence all over the back of him, though, trying to hassle that McLaren liveried Williams as much as he can. And they've got Brian Barnes waiting to see if anything is going to happen with these two. He's sitting in the popcorn position. Now down to 31 laps yet to go.
And it is not out of a question that Williams could lap the field if he's got a 36-second lead at the halfway point.
I think it's going to take another mistake from Sandman for that. We've seen the kind of pace that George can run. So, I don't know. It'd be a tall ask for him to lap second place.
Well, let's take a second since we're talking about Sandman. He's in the California group. California may sit third in the Governor's Cup, but they can boast the most wins of any club. Now, leading the way is Smitty, Michael Smith. He has 2 wins. We talked about that earlier. And then behind Smitty is Lionel Little Train Callisto. And in third is Jason Pitts, who we've also talked about. All those drivers are here today. The other race winner is George, Bring Me a Drink Sandman. He had a win earlier in the season. But, he hasn't been in a lot of races, so that's why he's buried down in 8th. So that takes care of the California rankings.
George, known for being fantastic in these higher-end cars. Remember, he put on a great performance in the Daytona prototype earlier in the year. Well, we've got a little bit of time. There's not too many close battles on track. We're going to take a short break, bring you a commercial from our official sponsor of the Pacific Majors Brazilian Grand Prix, and that would be Kavu.com.
We wake up every morning here, little part of the northwest of Seattle, trying to do our best. And we actually do our best. We're the best at quality, we're the best at on-time delivery, and we're the best at service. In fact, if you call up on the phone, you might get me. Here we are at Kavu. Some people don't know what Kavu is, maybe just a few, but let me explain it to you. It's an acronym for the perfect day. Clear, above, visibility unlimited. That means not a cloud in the sky and you can see forever. Up here in the Northwest, we define that as you can see Mount Rainier all the way to Mount Baker, to the Olympic Mountains. It's a day that you just want to get out and make the most happen. Some people go left, we go right. Kavu is a specialty company focusing on innovative styles and great craftsmanship. It's fun, free, and unlimited. The line is wild, rebellious, with an infectious kick. Our men's line, you know what we do with our men's line? We weave noise. Have you ever heard of that? No, never heard it done before, but we do it. Women's is about jacquard knits, some flannels, great lightweight jackets. We're selling a lifestyle that we live. At Kavu, the most important thing is have fun.
Welcome back to Interlagos. We're looking at our second place driver, George Sandman. He's being led by David Williams with 28 laps left to go. You just saw Ethan Moore off track there, off to the side. He had a spin and clobbered the wall. Lots of beautiful stuff, as you saw from the commercial, up in the American Northwest. So definitely give Kavu.com a look-see. And thanks again to them for officially sponsoring this race. Now, we did have a couple position changes during the break. Chris Pence was overtaken by Scott Gruber. That is for 9th and 10th position.
Yeah, we saw Ethan Moore off there. He was running in 17th place, got loose coming out of a hairpin and got a bit of contact from behind by Kyle Murphy. That may have damaged his car. That moves Kyle Murphy up into 17th in the old Camel Lotus paint scheme, and he doesn't seem to be suffering from that damage.
Now, a car that is close to a battle is Brian Barnes, still on the back of Chris Pence. Trying to keep him in check there. He's actually closed up around this technical section of the course. It was about a second, then it went down to about half a second. It's fluctuating a little bit depending on where they are. Let's see what he can do coming off the corner. He's going to be lapped by George Sandman, however, who works his way by on the inside.
Let's see if Barnes could maybe jump in behind Sandman there and follow him through.
Lets him on go on the front stretch. But look at the traction that Sandman gets compared to Barnes coming through Curva do Sol. Both of them putting a lap on Aaron Stowe. However, Pence goes a little bit wide. Is that going to compromise him and allow Barnes to get up to him? Yes, it does, but they've got the lapped car of Stowe between them. Barnes looking to the inside, trying desperately not to lose contact of Barnes, wanting to get into the top 10. Or excuse me, trying not to lose contact with Pence.
Pence in a beautiful Ferrari paint scheme. Oh, it looks great.
There are a lot of great paint schemes out there, Bill. We got Jordans, McLarens, the Camel Lotus, Ferrari. Always a perk of watching an F1 race on iRacing.
Pence, as you can see from the Texas Club. The other thing that we should mention, for those not familiar with the Pacific Majors, even though it's called the Pacific Majors, it was only started there. They have 4 clubs involved: the Northwest Club, the West Club, the Texas Club, and the California Club. And we saw another car off there on the first corner. That's Kyle Murphy, who almost comes out in front of Wayne Hutchison, but manages not to get in front of him. That was off screen as we continue to watch Chris Pence.
Another one of those F1 paint schemes, of course, is Lionel Callisto in third position in a Jordan paint scheme who just
Trent
had a spin.
Drismus has spun, and he had closed up behind Barnes and Pence in that battle. Boy, he is frozen on this. Oh, looks like he exited out.
Did he hit anything? Oh, yes, he did. He made contact with the inside wall very hard. We're going to see here coming through Decido del Lago.
Yeah.
Just starts to get a tail slapper and can't hold it together.
That's Barnes and Pence that was just ahead of him there, and he was gaining on him.
Makes me curious, with all this attrition, who has gained the most so far? I'm seeing Scott Gruber has gone from 18th to 9th. Sam Boren is from 10th to 5th, up at the front there.
He's on lap 45, and it looks like he's exited out of the sim, so I think he's going to call it a day.
Sad to see, especially with only 25 laps left to go. We're pretty far into the race. Everybody's relatively spread out. If you can keep the car together, just keep a decent pace, you could get yourself a good finish.
Yeah, but some of our leaders have been unable to do that. In the last couple of laps, we've seen Callisto go off. I think Fleischle put a couple of wheels off, and also Burnett had a bit of an off. I don't think any of them really lost positions, but their lap times were somewhere between 5 to 10 seconds off their regular pace.
Now, you were talking about those paint schemes. Have you noticed that Bennett is driving that Benetton scheme appropriately enough?
Yeah, that'll be a bit easier to keep an eye out on him. He's not the only one with that paint scheme out there.
Yes, he does have a teammate in Alfred Shepard, who's also got it on.
As if, under that theory, Joe Peak, you should drive a Peak Auto Parts, right?
Actually, I do use the Peak sponsor on my car sometimes on iRacing. So as we watch our 15th place driver, who is actually trying to put a lap on David Freeboth, so that's not for position. Freeboth moves off to the side. Christopher Sherburne just behind him. That's also not for position.
We should see most of the fielders on the two-stop strategy. We should see them in within the next lap or two as they come around to complete lap 48.
Now, Williams, last time I looked, had about a 30 to 35 second lead over Sandman. That is extended up to about 41 seconds now. So it's, I don't think Sandman is closing that down by any stretch of the imagination. Second place is not going to be too bad, but knowing George, I'm sure he was wanting the top step of the podium today, especially not being in any sort of championship hunt at this point.
Scott Gruber running in top 10, front wing damage on his number 90 machine. Hopefully, if he's on the two-stop strategy, he should be able to bring that in and fill it up to the end.
There we can see his car out on track at the moment. Now that car trying to work his way past, that did work his way past, was Stephen Paulison. So we've got a little bit of time. We've got cars spread out once more. Let's jump over to Bill. Sounds like you've got the points for the Texas Club.
Yeah, to do this, why don't we put the camera on Alan Hayspec right now, currently running in 26th position. He's our overall point leader for the entire series, and well, obviously, then he would be the Texas leader as well. Now, he's leading in the championship point, like I talked about. Second place is Chris the Thinker Pence. He's 28 points back, and I think you might see Pence on the screen there as well. Ethan Moore holds down third. Ahead of Volts Vape Sportsman leader is Mike Franklin in fourth, and Sam Bourne rounds out the top five for the Texas class.
The DM Dallas Mustang Parts and Accessories Texas Club Championship, led by Hayspec, who you can see on your screen.
Brian Barnes looks like he's going to be the first of the scheduled two-stoppers to come in for his second stop on lap 49. He was running in 9th position in that machine, sitting third in the overall points entering this race.
Brings it in nice and cleanly, doesn't overshoot his pit stall. As you can see, gets fuel and tires and is off along his way with 22 laps left on the ticker. A little bit farther down, I'm looking for battles, and right now Wayne Hutchinson, sitting in 22nd, has Aaron Stowe very closely in front of him. Is he going to try and make it go? He looks at the inside down into 6, but backs out of it.
Bo Reynolds came into the pits from 5th.
Another one of our top runners. Warren was up to 5th at one point. This is going to slide him down the order. And what I thought was going to be a battle, now Wayne Hutchinson has dropped off the back of Aaron Stowe just a little bit. There we see Boren exiting.
And to save us being yelled at by one of our, by Kevin Brown, I believe it's Hutchison.
Correct.
Kevin does a good job to make sure we're pronouncing all these names correctly.
Kevin being a member of the Northwest Club, he's familiar with a lot of these guys, raced with them quite frequently, actually.
Tell you what, you were reading those Texas Club standings, Bill. Those are really going to be shook up after today's race, after the race that Hasselbeck has been having.
No kidding. And that goes all the way up, not just in the Texas standings, but he did not have the overall standings locked up either. So Kalisto is right there with him. This is going to be close with one race to go.
You're right. I believe you said it was only 12 points between himself and, was it 3rd or 4th place?
Yeah.
Oof, that is extremely tight, so this is going to hurt. Now we've jumped to Alfred Shepard in 13th, still in a battle with Scott Gruber.
Callisto in from 3rd for his final stop.
Yeah, just to follow up on what Joe was talking about, Rob Gall is in 2nd place in the standings right now. He's currently in 8th, and Callisto is in 3rd. He's currently running 3rd. And then Haseback, we talked about, is struggling right now, way back in 24th. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting.
Now, speaking of Callisto, he's exiting now, and Jason Fleischle is just coming up to the first corner. I don't think he's going to be close enough. So Callisto is on fresher tires, should be on a relatively similar amount of fuel to Jason Fleischle, and he's got track position by about 5 seconds. Callisto looking very good for that podium. David, laps left to go. Sorry about that.
David Frybroth in that beautiful red machine there got out of the way, currently running in 28th position.
Chris Pence coming into the pits from 9th place in the number 73 Ferrari. He's a couple laps down, even though he's in the top 10.
And Smitty just had another off. I don't think he touched anything. Just overspun the tires coming out of Vico de Pato. This is a driver that's not having the best of days. We're pretty familiar with Smitty. He's done some work with GSRC in the booth, and he definitely has expressed his distaste for the FW31 to us. He does not like these rounds in the Williams, and he's heading into the pits now, actually.
Not too far behind David Williams, who just made his pit stop and had a cup of tea and got his car waxed and is now on the pit exit and rejoining the circuit.
Still has a 43-second lead over 2nd place, George Sandman. You talk about getting his car waxed. David Williams has shellacked the field today. Just incredible.
Let's go back to 24th position with Chris Beck. He's in a nice battle with an old friend of ours, Brett Trozine, that we know from the Autobahn series. It looks like Brett's going to take that position pretty easily. There you see Brett on the inside making the move. Beck in that, multi-rainbow color car, beautiful blue and yellow car.
And actually, I almost wonder if that's a tribute to the Visa cars, or I'm trying to remember, it was a Lola, actually, I believe. Raced for like maybe 1 or 2 races back in '97. I think that might be what it's referencing. If so, what a bizarrely rare and unfortunate car to mimic.
The driver sitting in 7th and 8th just came into the pits, and that is Pitts and Gull. There was a pretty substantial gap between them though, and also Gull came in a little too cold. He had to take his foot off the brake pedal and roll forward in his pit stall again, so now there's going to be a bigger gap between those two cars that were running in 7th and 8th.
And I'm going to say my goodbyes to everybody now. I got a thunderstorm here in the beautiful San Bernardino Mountains of California. My lights are flashing. My alarms are going off. So it's been fun announcing with you guys. If I disappear, I'll see you next time.
Hopefully Bill is able to stick around. Not usually attributing severe winter storms with California, but I guess that's what you get up in the mountains there. Meanwhile, Scott Gruber sitting in 13th. Still working on Alfred Shepard. Gruber's been in quite a few battles today. We've seen him either hunting cars down or hassling them or attempting passes all over the place. And I'm not sure if he gets tired of this. Every time I see that name, I keep thinking to Gruber. Certainly has been using every tool at his disposal today, that's for sure. Within about half a second of Shepard up there in 12th, trying to get himself a good run off of Juncao. But the cars start to stretch apart from each other as Shepard gets himself good traction and climbs up the hill up to the front stretch.
Sandman into the pits from 2nd.
And he should stay in that position. Fleischle is well far behind.
Williams has just put a lap on Fleischle now, which I think there's only 3 left.
Yep,
Himself,
Lionel,
Sandman, and Kalisto.
yeah, he's only got a couple corners between Williams and Kalisto. And where is Sandman? Sandman is already out on track. And in fact, he's got about a 48-second lead over Kalisto. Now, he passed him, how many laps ago was it? Maybe about a dozen or so?
Yeah, it's it's funny that starts off in a big mix, and then as the thing goes on, everybody settles in their level.
Excuse me, it wasn't 43, it's about 26 seconds. My timing and scoring finally caught up. Even still, that is just an amazing amount of time to stretch between yourself and third place, where it's going to be usually tighter gaps, you would think, up at the top of the field, where the talent makes it harder and harder to get significant gains out there on the track, especially in a short track such as this.
Yeah, Williams and Sandman did the smart thing in practice of running full race simulations, and I almost wonder if that's helped them out today. The other 2 drivers who did that were, one, the driver running in 8th position, Gall, and I can't remember the other one. I'll get to it in a second.
We ride on board with Scott Gruber at the moment, who closed in on Shepard down towards turn 4, but just every single time can't quite get it close enough to try and outbrake his competitor. Again, this is for 12th position between these two. Tries to get himself better traction, but whoa, he's very wide coming through turn 9. That loses him all the ground that he gained, being nice and tidy through 8. And actually behind them, that's for position as well, as Michael Smith is being lapped by George Sandman. He's catching up to Gruber. You can just see how far these cars accordion towards and away
we have
from
a
each
spin.
other.
Let's go to Brett Trozine. Brett Trozine got clipped as he was trying to go around a spinning car. Trent Durson, sorry.
Yeah. And he's still sitting there, down in turn 1. Now he gets a bit of clear track that he can get himself back on there, but the damage is done. Trocine down to 26th. We're going to look at the replay, see what exactly happened. He's all by his lonesome. This looks like it was potentially just driver error.
No. There's a spinning car in front of him here. There it is.
Oh, you're right. That was Dursmid. Did he actually make contact with
Yeah,
him?
he caught the left. Trozine got his left rear, and that's what spun him around.
Not going to make him very happy, that's for sure.
And for clarification, Trozine was actually the 4th car who did a full race simulation during practice. Unfortunately, unlike the other 3, it hasn't really paid off for him this race.
Certainly hasn't. We're going to look at the replay from Dursmid.
Now, to Dursmid's credit, he kept it. Oh, no, he didn't. I thought
Started to creep back across and actually almost went in front of Stowe there.
I wanted to give him credit for keeping it locked up, but that little bit of creep that he had going forward was enough to get Trozine.
Unfortunately, no, he does not have any Stowe credit.
So encouraging in one of these Formula 1 cars when you spin. In other cars, you kind of lock it down because you don't know where it's going, but an F1 car does most of the time what you tell it to do, so people just keep a foot flat to the floor and wait for it to spin back around the right way. That's not what happened there, but it's almost an instinct when you're in this car.
We had another car off the track. Who was that? JD Snyder. JD Snyder in the Kavu.com machine. And all this battling, despite working through traffic, Shepard has still got Gruber all over his rear wing. But Shepard looks a lot better in the slow traction zones than does Gruber. Continually just pulls away from him. Another car off the track. That was George Sandman is off the track. What happened to Sandman?
Well, he had 30 seconds over Kalisto, so let's see if he can still rejoin in second. He's got back around the right way now.
And that was driver error. We're going to look at the
Yep.
replay. He was all by his lonesome. He was coming through 11. Rear end just starts to get away, and he can't keep it pointed forward. Thankfully...
And then what he does, he can't bring it back on the track. He decides to do a right-hander. He does a U-turn through the grass. Because he can't bring it out. So, okay, I can't go that way. I'll go this way.
Has to be careful going through that grass. These cars are so low slung, you could damage the bottom of the car. Probably didn't want that as his first choice, but saw that he was losing so much time. And he lost just about all of his gap. He's still got 7 seconds over Kalisto.
Yeah, but Kalisto is being passed by Williams. Williams is about to put the third place car a lap down, and there he goes. He loses it in turn 4.
Kalisto was not lifting, but he didn't hold him up. He held to the outside once he saw that Williams had a nose in. So now the only car not a lap down is Sandman. Which one of you was saying that we might see everybody except the second place, or even including second place, get lapped?
He's got 11 laps to go. Come on, David. I don't think he's going to send me a drink, Sandman, but...
Well, we've seen Sandman make a few mistakes throughout the race. Just absolutely uncharacteristic of him, though.
Aaron Stowe has gone for a spin in turn 1, and he's been stuck there. He's lost about 20 seconds because there's just been a train of cars coming through the chicane. Stowe hasn't had the best of races to begin with. He's down there in 22nd. He was never really in harm's way, but I'm sure it was a bit of a surprise to all those cars coming through turn 1.
There we watch Sandman work his way past both Stowe and Jason Pitts. So we give our leader a little bit more screen time since we've only jumped to him briefly here and there. But that GTR Simulations Williams deserves some screen time for the performance that he has put on. It has just been a clinic today.
This battle for 12th that we've been keeping an eye on has finally gotten some fresh air. The traffic has finally parted their ways from them, and it could become a three-way battle. Right now they're actually a bit spread out as they go by Ethan Moore, that is.
J.D. Snyder just spun in front of Brian Barnes there. Brian got around him.
We're going to watch the replay of that. Barnes, one of our championship contenders. This is heading down into Juncao. And under braking, the rear end just wanted to swap ends there.
And that was
Brian. Stop it.
Brian Barnes has just got around him now. You know, Brian Barnes is your leader in the Northwest class. Sits third overall in the Drivers' Championship. So he's going to be doing really great today. He has designs on the crown. 35 behind Barnes is the Volt Vape sportsman Wayne Hutchinson. And Kyle Murphy stands the final podium. Carl Burke and Stephen Paulison round out 4th and 5th for the Northwest Club. And Joe, we got them all in.
Bill is always so proud of being able to get to do these championship situations. And with no cautions, as you said, we managed to find time. Here we watch Christopher Sherburne sitting in 19th. He's in a battle with Trent Dursmid, who's been up and down and yo-yoing all over today. Still 9 laps left to go. Number of drivers here, I'm sure, wishing it was already over. But you have to complete all the laps if you're the leader. Can't give it up now. Now, just an update on whether or not our leader can lap the entire field. About a lap or two ago, Williams was about 10 seconds behind Sandman. Now, it is down to 5.
What do they call that in NASCAR, Sam? I know it's stinking up the show, right? Is that what they say?
Perhaps. I'm almost thinking they should award a bonus point or two if you lap the field. Oh, and the battle for 12th is now on. Shepard got a really bad run through the final turn. Gruber got right on him. If they hold each other up too much, Michael Smith is there in 14th position, and it could become a three-way battle for that position. Gruber has it right now, but Shepard was pulling away from him and only lost the position because of a mistake, and he's going to try and want to get that back. Gruber overshoots the first turn, and that might mean that Shepard will be able to get a run down into turn 4 here.
It certainly looks like a possibility. Gruber knows what's coming. He goes to defend. Brings it just about halfway across the track now. He's back to the line and he knows he's safe. Down into Decido del Lago. The gap between Sandman and Williams now down to about 3.5 seconds.
Yeah, and there'll be 6.5 laps left to go for Williams now, 6 to go when he crosses the line. Honestly, the only thing that can stop him right now is an internet connection issue. He's been blinking in and out a few times over the last couple of laps.
We just saw it there on screen. Boy, what what heartbreak would that be for David Williams? And I thought I just heard a car into the wall.
Yeah,
Kyle Murphy is in the pit still, a lot of smoke in that machine, but he's already taken his free repairing and getting out again.
So must have been relatively close to the pits, or at least he was waiting for a while and we just didn't see him have an accident. Now, after Shepard got past, that did allow Smitty to get right up on the back of him. He's within a second, can't seem to close though.
And Murphy's coming out of the pits right in front of this battle.
Could come into play. He holds up Shepard just a little bit, coming through 4. This allows Smitty to close it now down to within 0.3. Shepard taking a wide line, coming through 6 and 7, missing both apexes.
Chris Pence running intense, just had to spin in turn 1, able to recover, doesn't lose any positions though.
Now you were mentioning about Shepard trying to run away from Gruber. It's switched places. Gruber is now running away from Shepard.
Yeah, now that's what's interesting is you got Shepard and then you got Smith in the battle. Right behind them is Sandman, and he wants to get around these guys because he knows that Williams is coming. Sandman wants to finish on the lead lap.
Yeah, and Smitty wasn't wanting to give that away, but once Sandman got the exit on Smitty, it was a done deal on the straightaway. Williams now only has 2 cars between himself and Sandman. That's going to be 3 soon as Sandman tries to put a lap on Shepard here. Smitty still trying to hunt down Shepard. Closes in as the line is compromised down into turn 8. We're watching Sandman just in front of them.
And guess who's coming to dinner here?
Ooh. And Kyle Murphy actually is trying to get a lap back from Smitty. Unfortunately, didn't see that Williams was behind him. Now Williams is able to overtake him. He's coming up on Smitty, and Smitty has dropped a lot of time to Shepard.
I'm going to have to deal with the lap car of Carl Burke here. That being said, Carl Burke is only about 2 or 3 positions behind them all. He's running in 16th. Oh, and Dersmid just went for a spin again. And it looks like he might actually take a tow and take that car to pit road. Oh, maybe not. He's got going again, but he definitely hasn't had a good race.
He did make a little bit of light contact with the inside wall, and critically, Lionel Kalisto had to take crazy evasive action to get around him. I'm wondering if we could get a replay from onboard Kalisto's view with that. He was well off the track.
Yeah, it's the problem these leaders have, don't they? They're all spread out, but all it takes is a mistake by the guy in front. These are the fastest cars in the business, and there you go. That's what could happen.
Yeah, we just watched it from on board. We're going to see it one more time here. And boy, was that scary. It just happens in a blink of an eye with these cars. There you'll see it coming through Curva del Sol, where the car in front just starts to lose it, spins out, heads on a trajectory, and you have to make sure that you know which way that car is going.
Now, if they finish on track the way they are now, as soon as David Williams takes the checkered flag, because I don't think he's going to be able to get Sandman, even though there's no lap cars between them anymore, there's a couple of turns, Sandman would be guaranteed second position as soon as David Williams takes the checkered flag, if Sandman is the next car in front of him.
Absolutely, since he's put the lap on Kalisto, he's got that between them.
Oh,
But Williams with a moment.
He wants Sandman so bad.
2 laps to go when he crosses the line.
Car was squirming even out of Juncao. I think you're right. He has no reason to be pushing that hard, other than maybe to try and take the mental defeat to Sandman.
Which doesn't mean a whole lot, because the finales are not running these cars.
No, we're going to switch back to the Gen 6 at Homestead. So going to the complete opposite end of racing.
I think really you've got to give everyone in the top 20 a shout out. I think they've been able to complete this race without that many incidents, which is saying something considering the fact that, you know, they're not regulars, or most of them aren't regulars in this car. Top 10 have been mostly incident-free or have got their own pace, but really the top 20 are the survivors. After that, I think you come to the drivers that have had a bit of a difficult day today.
And here in the final laps, we've got Bird and Chris Pence having an incredible battle, and Bird spins. Oh, he clatters into the wall. Coming through Curva del Sol. Disappointment for Bird. He was fighting for a top 10 there. And it looks like the car is able to wobble its way home, but what could have been for Ryan Bird in the final stages.
And David Williams has just started the final lap, and that white flag is something a lot of these drivers are going to want to see, I have a feeling, because we did have a couple of cars run off that time by.
And I think Williams has backed it off because Sandman has started to sort of, I don't know if you want to say stretch the gap or reel him in, whichever way you want to put it. So, David Williams, a few more corners, and he's going to seal the deal here at Interlagos. Here we go, working his way through the Bico de Pato. Sandman definitely stretching his way forward. Williams has backed it off. Lionel Kalisto is not a threat. Up through Juncao. Last corner, last braking zone on this track. Climbing up the hill with the white flag out, and now it switches to the checkers as David Williams comes to the line to take the win here in the penultimate round of the Kavu.com Pacific Majors Brazilian Grand Prix.
And the next cars to cross the line will be the battle for 12th, and it looks like Scott Gruber is going to win that, right ahead of Alfred Shepard, right ahead of Michael Smith in 13th and 14th.
Great battle from those guys. As we said, Sandman in second, Kalisto rounds out the podium. Fleischle just off of it, but a commendable run after all the racing he did earlier today into fourth. And Bennett rounds out the top 5. Great drive from him. So as everybody wraps things up and brings them home. We're going to go to a short break. We'll have the unofficial results after this, as well as driver interviews. Also, we are going to have the upcoming broadcast that we have here on the Global Sim Racing channel on our screen, so don't go away.
We wake up every morning here, little part of the northwest of Seattle, trying to do our best. And we actually do our best. We're the best at quality, we're the best at on-time delivery, and we're the best at service. In fact, if you call up on the phone, you might get me. we are at Cavu. Some people don't know what Cavu is, maybe just a few, but let me explain it to you. It's an acronym for the perfect day. Clear above, visibility unlimited. That means not a cloud in the sky and you can see forever. Up here in the Northwest, we define that as you can see Mount Rainier all the way to Mount Baker, to the Olympic Mountains. It's a day that you just want to get out and make the most happen. Some people go left, we go right. Cavu is a specialty company focusing on innovative styles and great craftsmanship. It's fun, free, and unlimited. The line is wild, rebellious, with an infectious kick. Our men's line, you know what we do with our men's line? We weave noise. Have you ever heard of that? No, never heard it done before, but we do it. Women's is about jacquard knits, some flannels, great lightweight jackets. We're selling a lifestyle that we live. At Cavu, the most important thing is have fun.
Welcome back to Interlagos, where we just watched the Cavu.com Pacific Majors Brazilian Grand Prix, the penultimate round here in this championship. And the driver who came out on top in dominant fashion, nearly lapping the entire field, was David Williams. It's his second win of the season, joining Michael Smitty Smith as a two-time winner this season. George Sandman came home in second, managing to finish on the lead lap. Lionel Callisto rounds out the podium, helping his championship chances. Jason Fleischle with a great run to fourth, followed by Brian Bennett rounding out the top five. Sam Boren had a relatively quiet race. We only saw him a few times, who finished sixth, with Jason Pitts as well. We didn't see a lot of him, came home in seventh. Then it's Rob Gall coming home in eighth, with Brian Barnes, one of our championship contenders, in the top 10, finishing ninth. And then Chris Pence behind him in 10th, Bill.
In 11th, Ryan Bird, followed by Scott Gruder. Alfred Shepard in the Baker's Dozen spot. Michael Smitty Smith in 14th position. Rob Beltrami, didn't get to see much of him on the track today. 15th, nice quiet 15th for him. Carl Burke in 16th. Christopher Sherburne in 17th. Trent Dursmid, we saw a lot of him, had some very fast, started up front in 8th position, going to finish in 18th, had some trouble. Ethan Moore in 19th, and rounding out the top 20, Wayne Hutchison. Sam?
Yeah, and then in 21st position, we have Kyle Murphy, who had some kind of incident late in the race. Alan Hessebeck, the championship leader, entering this race, finished in 22nd position. That's not going to help him a whole lot. Steve Paulison, I believe he was involved in some kind of early trouble, 23rd. Aaron Stowe had several spins during the race, 24th. Chris Beck in 25th position, and then behind him was Mike Franklin in 26th. J.D. Snyder also had a couple of off-track excursions. He finished in 27th, and Adam Young in 28th. Brett Trojan's race ended a bit prematurely with an incident, 29th place there, and David Freibos was in 30th there, Joe.
Donovan Johns finished in 31st, followed by Scott Weinbaugh in 32nd. Robert Pretis came home 33rd, followed by Jimbo Pfeiffer. Not a good run for him today, all the way down in 34th. Matt Gelder, these are all DNFs pretty much, by the way. Matt Gelder finished in 35th, followed by Matt Redeker in 36th. Jared Morgan in 66th. And Richard Tillman looks like he was a did not start today here on the grid. We have some of our drivers here waiting for interviews. First up, we're going to talk to our winner, David Williams, who is out there in dominant fashion all day today, unchallenged. David, it looked like you didn't have to worry the whole way. Did you have any worries at all during the race? Did you run into any trouble with traffic?
Well, obviously I had a few scares. You know, there's, with all of us being in the same split, it's there's quite a difference in speed of some of us, you know, so there were a few hairy moments where I had to lock it up and go offline and stuff like that. But, you know, actually I was really expecting George to win this. As crazy as that may sound now after the race is over, but looking at his practice times, he was probably faster than me. I wasn't sure his strategy or anything. You know, F1 is always a what do you call it? Thinking man's game. You know, there's always strategy on pits and time and fuel and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, anyway, not too many hairy moments though, and not too many unexpecteds.
Yeah, and you've actually joined Smitty in terms of people who've won multiple races now, a very small group. We saw that you were a little bit squirmy at the end in a few corners. Were you trying to chase down Sandman to try and put a lap on him at the end? Is that where you were pushing?
Yeah. When I saw he was only 6 seconds ahead when I came out of the pits, I was like, man, I might be able to get the whole field. And but there was just so much traffic that I used up my tires pushing for everything I had to get past the lap traffic. And when I finally got in free space, man, my tires were just slick. They were slipping and sliding everywhere.
Well, congratulations on the win. It looked like you just had this thing under control the whole way. And obviously, I'm sure your sponsors, GTR Simulators, are pretty happy about that.
Oh, yeah. Before we get to my sponsors, though, I hope you guys got to catch my paint out there, running a special paint for the folks in France, that suffered the Friday the 13th massacre. I guess is about the best way to say it. Our hearts really go out to those guys, and as Americans, we felt that same pain during 9/11, and our sympathies are with them. Our GTR simulator F1 is always good on the track. We got a lot of guys on our team that are really experienced in an F1 car. They really help me out, give me some good advice, and with them, backing me, it's always a good day for TNT and the F1 cars.
All right. Well, thanks for coming and talking to us, and congratulations on your win.
Thanks again, Joe, and I can't wait to go back and see the broadcast. Take care, guys.
All right. Up next, we have Brian Bennett, who came home in fifth, and he is going to be talking to Bill.
Brian, you started in fifth, you finished in fifth. That doesn't sound all that exciting, but I watched your race. Boy, it was eventful for you.
It was really exciting right from the very get-go. I had a wonderful start, and then executed the first half of the race just the way I planned on. It was great.
Now, do you feel comfortable in these high-powered cars?
No, get used to them. I raced most of my experiences in the Spec Racer Ford and a little bit in the Mazda lately, but the leagues this season I've bounced around, and then a couple other things. I guess I've been in HPDs a bit more because of leagues and things. So some downforce time, but not a lot. They're pretty nice, but the divide between the really skilled and us guys that are faking it's pretty wide. Since I got lapped almost twice, right?
Yeah, well, don't feel bad. Everybody in the race got lapped except George Sandman, so that's not you have nothing to worry about there. How do you feel? Are you going to do the big cars, the heavy cars, the NASCAR cars? How do you feel about that for the closer?
I'm excited about it. I helped out Michael Smith with his build for this race. He was really struggling, and I tuned up something that was stable. My same set I ran, but he's going to hook me up with a Gen 6, so I won't have to think about how to tune a car there in a couple weeks or whenever the race comes about. I can just try to learn how to drive it. You can't see very good in those cars. That's a challenge. When you're right on somebody's bumper, all I can see is their back lid of their trunk, and that's challenging, but I can figure it out, I think.
Okay, here's my last question. It's get to know Brian Bennett. Favorite Disney princess you'd like to marry? Who would it be?
I suppose.
Brian, come on, Brian.
Cinderella?
Cinderella's a good one. That a boy. All right, back to you, Joe. Now that's Cinderella. Now one for Cinderella and one for Queen Elsa. All right.
I think our drivers that aren't familiar with Bill are always caught a little bit out by that one. That was Brian Bennett, our fifth place finisher today here at Brazil. Up next, we have our fourth place finisher, Jason Fleischle, who we got to see a little bit throughout the day. And I believe Sam is going to ask him a few questions.
Jason, I believe, if I'm correct on this, you were the top finisher who chose a one-stop strategy there in fourth place. In hindsight, are you glad that you chose that strategy?
Hi, Sam. Oh, in hindsight, we
the strategy appeared to not matter because we finished exactly how we qualified, at least, up front. So, no, the car felt best to me on a one stop in the testing during warm up. I tried two stop fuel. I didn't like the way the car felt. The balance was a little different from start, and the one stop was just solid from start to finish. So I decided to go with that because I just actually wanted to try and minimize mistakes on this run.
Yeah, now talking about mistakes, there were a lot being made out there. Some of them by drivers who would usually be in the second split. Not often we see one split race here. How much was traffic playing into your race out there?
I had terrible flashbacks of living in LA. It was traumatic.
Well, I hope that trauma doesn't get to you too much. Hey, a fourth place finish, that's definitely something you can hold your head high about.
Yeah, for sure. Top 5 in this group. And, I drove nearly a flawless race, nearly flawless. And I thought, okay, that combined with one stop, that should get me, at least third. But I could never catch Lionel there with the traffic. It was just it was the traffic. Couldn't catch Lionel.
Now, the series is heading to its finale at Homestead Miami Speedway in the Dren 6 Cup cars next weekend. You going to be there?
Yep, I am. I'm going to be there. Because a nice top 5 finish here, that'll move me. That should drop me into the top 10 now. So definitely going to be there.
All right, and we'll look to see if you can solidify that top 10 in the points at Homestead Miami Speedway next week. Well, anything else you'd like to say before we let you go and rest up after a long race here at the Interlagos circuit?
Nope, just thanks to Mike and everybody that puts this on. Mike does a whole ton of work, and then he juggles the World Cup on top of this at the same time. I don't know how the guy does it. He's amazing. So just thanks for everybody, and it was a lot of fun.
All right, well, thanks for coming to talk to us, Jason, and that was your fourth place finisher, Jason Fleischerle there, Dre.
With a good run today, especially with an alternate strategy compared to our top runners. Driver who had a good run today, but not without its problems, was George Sandman. Finished second, still on the podium, but almost a lap down today. George, the first question that I think that a lot of us want to know is what happened on the start. We saw that you stalled, and everyone was a little shocked to see the front row not take off.
Yeah, I think I thought I had it in gear and I didn't. So, and then once you don't have it and you try to accelerate, trying to click it in, if you don't have the RPMs right, I think I clicked it like 8, 10, maybe 10 times before it actually engaged. I was lucky that I didn't cause a big incident right there on the start one.
Yeah, I have to imagine you were really thanking your lucky stars that everybody was heads up and avoided that. Now, as you were plowing back through the field, it looked like you were very heads down. At that point early in the race, what did you think was achievable? Did you think you'd get all the way up to second?
I thought I could get back up to the top 3 at least. I didn't think I could catch David unless he had some type of problem. I just wish that I would have been able to stay with him. I think I could have stayed with him. I had a good pace in the car. I pushed it a little too hard with traffic and just had a lot of slower laps, pushing too hard in traffic. But David told me he was coming to get me, so the last 3 laps I kind of kicked it up a little bit and made sure that he wasn't gonna lap me.
Yeah, we talked to him a little bit ago. He said that when he saw the gap, he started pushing, hoping that maybe he could do it. We kind of suspected that from how we watched him on the broadcast. Well, second place is still a decent finish. I'm sure you would have hoped for more. Do you think you're going to be able to show up for the Homestead round, or is this it for your season here in Pac Majors?
This is probably it for my season. I'd like to thank my team, Orion Race Team, and also my sponsor, HPP Simulations. These pedals work really great. I just need to figure out how to use the shifter.
Apparently. Well, again, congratulations on your second place finish, and welcome back. We always love seeing you on here and putting on the incredible show that you do with your skill behind the wheel. Thanks for talking to us.
Hey, not a problem. And thanks for what you guys do. I can't wait to see the broadcast.
Awesome stuff. That was George Sandman, our second place finisher here today at Brazil. We're going to close up today. First off, though, we want to thank the many sponsors of the Pacific Majors. Thanks to Kavu.com, the official sponsor of this race. Thanks to Sentinel Shepherds and Taye Kennels, who sponsor our oval rounds. And, of course, to the sportsmanship sponsor, Volt Vapes. Thanks to Mike Willett, who organizes the Pacific Majors. As many of these guys have said in the interviews, he puts in a lot of work behind the scenes. Thanks to the software and hardware that we use for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Giancarlo, Sam, and Dougie, as well as special thanks to Trevor Cameron, who is our chat mod today, out on YouTube. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived races and upcoming broadcasts. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. And don't forget to ping us on social media because we love talking to our viewers and hearing what they think, as well as answering any questions they might have. Special thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde, who both provide music for our broadcast. Their music can be found at the locations listed on screen as well. Next race, we mentioned that'll be the Gen 6 cars at Homestead, the finale of the Pacific Majors, and everything is still to fight for here. Sunday, November 22nd at 5:45 p.m. Pacific. That, in fact, is a week from now, so that'll be exciting stuff to get right back in it. We also have upcoming races for other series on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. But until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.